Let's start with something simple but powerful. Create a morning that belongs only to you. One of the most common challenges I see among older adults, especially after retirement or recovering from illness, is the quiet disappearance of structure. Without work, caregiving, or other regular obligations, the days can start to blur together. Your body may not move the way it used to, but that doesn't mean your sense of purpose should fade too. When we lose structure, we also tend to lose momentum, and that can lead to feeling invisible or emotionally stuck. But I've found that even a very small morning routine, something easy, gentle, and yours alone, can change the tone of the whole day. It doesn't need to be complicated. What matters is that it becomes a steady signal to your brain and your heart. I am here, I matter, and today is mine to begin. I've worked with many older clients who felt this sense of emotional drift. One of them, Harold, he's 72 and lives in Pittsburgh, really stayed with me. A few years ago, Harold suffered a mild stroke. Physically, he recovered better than expected, but emotionally, he felt like the rug had been pulled out from under him. He told me, "I wake up and the day just starts without me. It's like I'm already behind, even though I have nowhere to be." He'd stopped shaving, stopped making breakfast, stopped even changing out of pajamas some days. He wasn't depressed in the clinical sense, but he was deeply disconnected, and that's just as serious. We started simple. I asked Harold to pick just 3 small things he could do every morning, no matter what. Things that didn't require anyone else and didn't depend on the weather or how he was feeling physically. He chose to splash cold water on his face, stretch his arms and shoulders for 30 seconds, and sit by the window with his favorite coffee mug, even if it only held warm water. That was it, 3 steps. He called it his reset ritual, and within 2 weeks, he was getting dressed every day again. 3 months later, he'd signed up for a local book club. Once the morning felt like mine again, he told me. I started wanting the rest of the day, too. Another woman I worked with, Darlene, 68, from Bakersfield, had lost her husband and felt adrift. She started each morning by lighting a candle and reading 1 paragraph from her late husband's favorite novel. It gave her a soft kind of strength that no pep talk could replace. These routines aren't magic, but they're anchors. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. What often helps is choosing a few very gentle steps you can do at the same time each morning. It might be washing your face, putting on soft music, and sipping something warm while watching the light change outside. Maybe it's opening the window and saying out loud one thing you're grateful for. Maybe it's brushing your hair and spraying on a scent you love, even if no one else is around to smell it. The point isn't perfection, it's presence. You're telling your brain, I'm awake, I'm here, and I deserve to greet this day with care. You don't need anyone's permission to reclaim your mornings. Even 5 minutes of quiet, chosen routine can shift your whole mindset. Think of it like planting a flag in the ground. This moment is mine. You might not run marathons anymore, but you can still declare victory. And when you start your day with that little win, with presence, gentleness, and intention, you remind yourself that your life is still yours. And that's a message worth repeating every single day. Here's another habit that can make a real difference. Talk to someone out loud every single day. I've seen again and again how older adults tend to slip into silence without even realizing it. You might text with the grandkids, leave a comment on Facebook, or scroll through photos your daughter sends from out of state. And those are all good things. But they're not the same as hearing another person's voice and letting your own be heard in return. There's something about the physical act of speaking, moving your face, forming words, breathing deeper, that keeps the mind sharper and the heart more connected. When that disappears, even without loneliness in the dramatic sense, there's often a quiet kind of sadness that takes its place. And over time, that silence isn't just emotional. It starts to show up in slower word recall, increased forgetfulness, and a sense of being out of step with the world. I remember a woman named Linda, 68, from Austin, who came to one of my workshops on cognitive wellness. She'd always been a talker, raised 3 kids, used to run a small craft store, constantly chatting with customers. But after her youngest son moved to Colorado and her friend circle grew smaller, she realized something strange was happening. I'll go days without saying more than 2 words, she told me. And then when I do talk, I feel clumsy, like my mouth forgot how to do it. It hit her one night when she tried to leave a voicemail and kept stumbling over her words. She wasn't losing her memory. She was just out of practice using her voice. Another client, George, 73, from Ohio, used to call his sister every morning at 8:30 just to hear her say, "You again?" after picking up. When she passed away, the silence in that hour became unbearable. He didn't realize how much that little routine had grounded him, not just emotionally, but mentally. We talked through it, and eventually he started calling his neighbor across the street, a woman he barely knew, just to check on her dog. Now they talk about gardening, old music, and how they both used to dance when knees weren't what they used to be. It's not therapy, it's connection. And it makes a difference. What often helps is setting a simple goal. Speak to at least one person every day, out loud and with intention, whether it's a quick phone call, a voice message, or even reading something aloud to yourself if no one picks up. Get your voice moving. If you don't like the phone, try walking outside and talking to someone at the corner store, a neighbor, or even the mail carrier. You don't have to force deep conversation. Just a few minutes of shared sound, of real presence, can wake something up in you that no screen ever could. Your voice is part of who you are, and when you use it, you remind the world and yourself that you're still very much here. Think of your voice like a light in a window. It's a signal. It tells others, I'm awake, I'm listening, I'm alive. And just like that, even a quiet day feels less empty. That's a kind of power that deserves to be used. Here's something a bit different, but deeply powerful. Use your own memories to calm your mind at night. For many older adults I work with, anxiety doesn't show up as panic. It arrives quietly, often when the sun goes down. You might feel fine all day, but the moment your head hits the pillow, the mind starts spinning. Regrets, what-ifs, health worries, people you miss, things you can't fix. That's completely human, especially when life slows down and we don't have the same distractions we used to. But the problem is, our brains aren't built to rest in fear. Nighttime anxiety affects sleep, digestion, blood pressure, even memory function, especially after 60, when the body needs more recovery time. The good news is that we can gently guide the brain into a calmer place, not by ignoring the thoughts, but by offering it something warmer and safer to focus on. And you already have that tool. It's called your own memory. Let me tell you about Walter. He's 76 and lives in Chicago. Retired school bus driver, strong voice, always had stories for every corner of the city. But after his wife passed away and his dog died in the same year, the nights became unbearable. During the day, he'd run errands, read the paper, check on his neighbor. But at night? It's like I open a drawer I can't close, he told me. Old arguments, missed chances, even small things like forgetting someone's birthday years ago, all of it would come rushing back. He'd lie in bed for hours, tired but wired, feeling helpless. We tried a few things. No screens at night, no caffeine, journaling. But what helped most was a new bedtime ritual I call re-experiencing joy. I asked him to pick one memory each night, something small but specific. A birthday lunch, a fishing trip, his wife laughing at a joke she'd heard before. Then I told him to close his eyes and live inside that memory. What did the sky look like? What music was playing? What was he wearing? Not just thinking about it, but thinking from inside it. He started doing it every night. One time he remembered the time his granddaughter took her first steps and said, "Papa," as she walked straight toward him. That became his favorite memory to revisit. It's like I'm tucking myself into the past, he said, but the good part of it. Another client, Marie, 70 from Tucson, used to mentally replay the day she finally learned to drive her late husband's pickup truck. That little win, the feel of the steering wheel, how proud she felt. It became her lullaby. These aren't just sweet stories. They're exercises in emotional self-regulation, and they're deeply calming to the nervous system. What often helps is creating a little nightly habit around this practice. About 10 minutes before bed, sit quietly and ask yourself, when was a time I felt deeply content, peaceful, or loved? Let your memory pick the scene. Then close your eyes and slowly walk through it, as if you're right there again. Engage your senses. If it was a beach, feel the sand under your feet. If it was a kitchen, smell the coffee or cinnamon. The more specific you get, the more your brain will believe it's there and begin to relax. It might feel strange at first, but don't worry. This is something only for you. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. You don't need to fight the dark. Sometimes all you need is to bring a little light from the past into your present. Think of your memories like a drawer full of warm blankets. They've been folded and waiting, not to weigh you down, but to comfort you. You've lived through joy, through beauty, through love, and it's all still part of you. Even if the days ahead feel uncertain, the good days behind you haven't disappeared. They're yours to keep and yours to return to whenever. You need a soft place to land. Another gentle but powerful habit I recommend is using your hands every single day, not just to get through the day, but to create something, even something small. When people stop working or become less physically active, they often tell me they start to feel invisible, not just to others, but to themselves. That's especially true after illness or surgery, when even simple tasks feel harder than they used to. But here's what I've noticed. Our hands have a memory of their own. When you stop using them for more than just holding the remote or flipping through the mail, that quiet disconnection sets in. You feel less needed, less capable, and that can slowly wear down your sense of self-worth. I see it over and over again. When people stop doing, they start doubting. And while you can't always control what your legs or back allow you to do, your hands often still carry the power to rebuild confidence, one small action at a time. I remember Eleanor. Well, she's 70 and lives in Seattle. She'd always been the one people relied on. Sunday dinners, birthday cakes, hand-sewn Halloween costumes for the grandkids. But after a hip replacement surgery, she spent a full 6 weeks mostly confined to a recliner, waiting for the physical pain to go down. But what hurt more, she told me, was the feeling of being useless. "I just sit here like a potted plant," she said during one of our check-in calls, half joking but clearly aching. She wasn't ready for long walks or outings yet, but her hands were working just fine, and I gently encouraged her to give them something to do. She started small, sorting old family photos that had been in boxes for years. At first it was just organizing, but soon she began making little envelopes to send copies to her children, adding notes on the back with names and dates. That small task turned into something bigger. She created a photo timeline for her daughter's upcoming 40th birthday. That act, purely manual, personal, and creative, became her therapy. "It made me feel like me again," she said. Another gentleman I worked with, Sam, 73 from Minnesota, took up sanding and refinishing old wooden spoons from his kitchen drawer. A quiet, rhythmic activity that gave him peace and purpose on days when the news or his joints made him feel overwhelmed. He said it gave him a reason to sit still, but still feel useful. One of the easiest ways to begin is by choosing a hands-on activity that doesn't depend on anyone else, doesn't require fancy equipment, and can be done seated. Maybe it's folding laundry carefully, dicing vegetables slowly, writing a postcard, threading a needle, or even polishing an old pair of shoes. The idea isn't to be productive in the traditional sense. It's to engage the part of your mind that comes alive when you create, fix, sort, or care for something tangible. It's a direct way to remind your brain that you're still capable, still in motion, still contributing, even in quiet, private ways that no one else sees. That's often where the healing begins. Your hands have done so much for you in your life. Raised children, held tools, planted flowers, soothed loved ones, stirred soup, wiped tears. And they still know how to make meaning. Even now, they carry the wisdom of decades. So if you ever feel small or unsure or invisible, just give your hands something gentle to do. Sometimes healing doesn't come from thinking your way out of sadness. Sometimes it comes from creating something real, even if it's just a folded napkin or a carefully peeled apple. From your hands back to your heart, that's the path, and it's always open. Let me offer you a small shift with a big payoff. Give your brain something new to chew on, even just for 5 minutes a day. A lot of people tell me, I'm too old to start learning now. But in my experience, that belief does more damage than age ever could. The truth is, when the brain stops being challenged, it doesn't just rest. It begins to dim. And it's not about intelligence, it's about stimulation. Our brains thrive on newness, new sounds, new words, new connections. That's how we keep our memory sharp, our mood stable, and our sense of curiosity alive. But I also understand that trying something unfamiliar can feel intimidating. You might think you'll forget it the next day, or that it's not worth the effort. That's okay. What matters isn't how much you retain. It's that you keep showing up, giving your mind something fresh to reach for. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be fast, but it does have to be yours. I'll never forget Robert. He's 74, lives in Denver, and spent most of his adult life working in maintenance at a school. We met at a local library talk I gave on brain health after 60. During the Q&A, he raised his hand and said, "I always wanted to learn Italian, but that ship sailed, right?" I asked him why he thought that. "Because I'll never be fluent, and I'll probably forget half of it anyway." That stuck with me. I pulled him aside after and asked, "What if fluency isn't the goal? What if joy is?" He laughed and said no one had ever put it that way. A week later, he downloaded a basic language app and started learning 3 new Italian words a day. He'd say them out loud while making coffee, or write them on a sticky note and put it on the fridge. Then he started watching old Italian movies with subtitles, paused when he heard a word he recognized, and smiled like a kid. 3 months later, he was greeting his grandkids with "Ciao, amici." They thought it was hilarious and started learning with him. He told me he hadn't felt that awake in years. Another woman I worked with, Barbara, 69, from Tampa, always wanted to play the ukulele but felt silly. She started watching YouTube tutorials and practicing 5 minutes a day. It wasn't about being good, it was about being engaged. Now she plays one simple song for herself every night before bed, just for the calm it brings. What often helps is picking something that sparks even a little curiosity. Learning a few words in another language, trying to follow a simple recipe from a different country, memorizing a short poem, or watching a video about a place you've never been. The key is consistency, not pressure. 5 minutes a day of focused learning, even just listening, writing, or repeating something out loud, can rewire how your brain feels about itself. And the bonus? It builds confidence. Every time you try something new, you remind yourself that you're still capable of growth, that your mind hasn't shut its door. It's just waiting for a knock. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't even have to remember everything. All you have to do is show up for your own mind, with gentleness, with play, with the same patience you'd give a child learning something new. Age doesn't stop you from learning. Fear does. And the beautiful thing about this stage of life is that you don't owe anyone speed or mastery or proof. You only owe yourself the gift of curiosity and the freedom to enjoy it. So go ahead, learn a word, try a chord, watch that documentary. Let your brain stretch its legs a little. It's still got places to go. Let us know in the comments which of these tips surprised you the most, or maybe you've already tried some of them. Share your experience. We read every comment. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We've got many more simple and helpful tips coming your way for your health and your mind. You are not alone. You're stronger than you think. Life goes on if you hold it by the hand.